Hey everybody, welcome to another model building workshop. I'm Mr. Allen. I'm coming to you from my basement workshop here in Providence, Rhode Island on behalf of the Community Libraries of Providence. And today we're going to look at a couple of Skyhawks. This is the 1/48 scale Douglas TA-4F Skyhawk by Fujimi. And we have another one here of the A4 type this one's got the, it's a training plane with two seats. This has got the one seat. Also, I think a Fujimi variant. I think that was marketed through some other company. But I think it's still pretty much from the same molds. And yeah, so what are we looking at here? Basically, we're looking at some kits that were done by some kids at the library, and I kind of salvaged them after they were kind of left to rot. Sometimes kids build model kits and then they don't want to take them home and they leave them around. And either I take them on as a little challenge to myself to see what I can do with the abandoned, orphaned model kit, you know, like I do with these, which I'll probably then turn around and give away to some other kids. And sometimes I find that to be a fun hobby within a hobby. See if you can salvage either, you know, a built kit or a mangled kit or something of that ilk. For the most part, these were, you know, they needed painting and a few other things. There's something inside this plane still. This is the twin-seater, and you'll notice that there are some problems with this kit aside from the thing inside. You know, you get the tail fins are on incorrectly. I did not decide to take these off and refit them. I guess that was a possibility, but I didn't want to go through all of that with this kit. There's really no cockpit. There were some issues, I think, with both of these, trying to get the cockpit to work. And I think that could be the pilot that's floating around in here, the poor guy. So in this case, I just did a quick paint job and threw some markings on it to some extent so that some kid will probably have fun with that later. You know, and if it gets destroyed, it gets destroyed, right? You know, it's got some problems. But hey, throw some paint on it and things look a lot better, don't they? Well, let's talk about the kit. Let's see, which one do we have here? Instruction sheet left over. And this is all in Japanese, so I don't have a whole lot I can work with as far as the storyline. I do know that these were in use in the 60s with the U.S. Navy. They were there for Vietnam, and these tended to get phased out with the Navy. I think by 75, I think they've been phased out with the U.S. Navy, but they did serve on with the U.S. Marine Corps, I think into the 80s, which I think the job was then passed on to the Harrier sometime in the 80s. And then these were sold to umpteen countries around the globe, like Israel used a lot of these, as did Argentina during the Falklands War, for example. All right, so let's look at the instruction sheet here. And the kids and I, we did find that they ran into problems, you know, with some stuff right away. One of the problems is, you can see it's designed for the wheels down. They don't really give you a wheels up option. Kids really like wheels up flight mode, so we had to get creative for that. The cockpit did not go together well, at least not for the kids. They struggled with that on both of these kits that we have, you know, that survived here. So that was an issue. And then you have the pros and cons is that there's a lot of underwing options, that you can put on here for armament. And again, most kids, at least younger kids, get overwhelmed with that. They're not a big fan of trying to put all of this stuff on. Sometimes you get a kid that really likes to do every single part of a model, really enjoys the whole build and the challenge of building everything and wanting to paint and do the whole thing. But I do find that the majority of the kids I've worked with, they get, like I said, overwhelmed with some of this stuff and just want it simple and fun, and they want to paint it and take it home, and that's kind of it. This one also I see here has the heat the wheels so they spin. Yeah, that's not something to do with kids. Heating the screwdriver and melting. So, okay, so we have a couple of different ones here. Like I said, this is the regular A4 one that I tried to make as good as I could. Or the one that was sitting around. Again, you can see that the cockpit's got issues. You can see the glue haze in there. That didn't go too well. And for underwing equipment, we've got all of that under there, which I put on. Tried to do the best I could. I found those bomb racks were challenging for me, so I know the kids probably would have lost their minds doing that. Of course, I was also trying to paint them and then glue them, which is difficult. I thought kids probably would have built it and then painted it afterwards somehow, but I was trying to do a bit of both at the same time there. A little bit of painting, a little bit of building. The refueling thing broke on this one. I'm noticing the decals are showing signs of getting icky on that wing there, which is unfortunate. Yeah, it took a lot of decal setting solution to get these to stay down, and some of them are showing signs of not liking it now. For the most part, they did okay. But yeah, there's a lot of setting solution and to get those to fit. And this is an old kit, so this is, I think it's from the 80s, maybe the 70s, but I think it's the 80s. Because I could have checked that, I suppose. Does it say anything on this sheet? Well, there's nothing's really in English anyway. Anyhow. Shows you a few examples of painting on this kit. I'm not completely sure. I think we had a bunch of these from different manufacturers. I think they're all really the Fujimi mold, but they were boxed and marketed by different people. So you have different marking options here, but none of these are the one that we're looking at. Because these are all for the, actually this is all for the training one, for the TA-4F, which is that plane. And then I have a nice color plate there of them here, which I used as paint guide, and then used the decals that came with what I had, Not completely sure what these came from. So there's like I said, there's a mixture of different kits. And these have been sitting around the library for a little while before I decided to try to finish them off and then recycle them for kids. So they could do something with the kits that were lying around. Yeah, so there's that one there. And the box also shows some other kits in this series, which are kind of fun.